everybody. It's Miss Eileen from the Derry Public Library, and we're imagining our stories this summer for the summer read program. I'm going to show you how you can take this tale of the Sleeping Beauty and make it into a game and maybe even a musical play with costumes and props. So at the library we have available a coloring book for Sleeping Beauty, and it has 9 pages in it for you to color, and it tells you the words of the song of the Sleeping Beauty. And the first verse goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a princess long ago, long ago, long ago. There was a princess long ago. And at the end of every verse, you always say, a long time ago. She lived where every princess lives. She lived up in a castle high, a castle high, a castle high. She lived up in a castle high, a long time ago. And when she was born, everyone was so happy, and on her naming day, they had a big party. And in some versions of the story, she's called Aurora, and in other versions, she's called Rosa, or Thorn Rosa. So everybody looked around the crib and said, oh, what a beautiful baby. But the fairies came, and a wicked fairy was among them, and she cast a spell on the poor baby. A wicked fairy cast a spell, cast a spell, cast a spell. A wicked fairy cast a spell a long time ago. And the spell predicted that the princess would prick her finger on something sharp, maybe the thorn of a rose or a spinning wheel needle, and she would fall asleep and not wake up. So, on her 16th birthday, she did prick her finger on something sharp, and she fell asleep in her bedroom at the top of a tower at the castle. The princess slept for 100 years, 100 years, 100 years. The princess slept for 100 years, a long time ago. Everyone in the castle fell asleep too. The king and the queen, the guards, the dogs and the cats, and the maids. And there was nobody to cut the grass outside or to trim the bushes. And the hedges, the rose hedges, grew so tall and so thick with their thorns that you couldn't even see the castle. The hedges all grew thick and tall, thick and tall, thick and tall. The hedges all grew thick and tall a long time ago. 100 years later, who comes riding by but a prince? And I like to sing this verse with a galloping rhythm, with the horse's feet going gallop and gallop and gallop. A handsome prince came riding by, riding by, riding by. A handsome prince came riding by a long time ago. And he saw the castle behind the hedges, and he got off his horse, he tied up his horse, he took out his sword, and he used it to break through the branches of the thorny hedge. He broke right through that thorny hedge, the thorny hedge, the thorny hedge. He broke right through that thorny hedge a long time ago. And he made his way into the castle, and he found everyone asleep. And he looked for the princess. He made his way to the tower. He found her bedroom at the top of the tower. He called out to her, but she didn't wake up. So he went to her bed and he touched her 4 times on the shoulder to wake her up, like this. The princess wakened at his touch, at his touch, at woke up, she stretched and she yawned and she looked at the prince, and they went downstairs and they found everyone else awake finally after 100 years sleep, and they were so happy that the court jester led them all in some dancing. And everybody danced around, danced around, danced around, and everybody danced around a long time ago. And they all lived happily ever after. Well, these are the costumes and props that I keep around the library, or I brought in from home to make The Tale of the Sleeping Beauty into a musical play. And I had a tiara from my daughter when her dancing days when she was little, for the princess to wear. And you could also make a crown at home. This is a crown that we made at the library. This is made out of foam, but you could also make it out of construction paper for the princess to wear. And I had this rose, an orange rose that has the thorns on it, that reminded me of her name, Thorn Rosa, in some of the versions. So who's ever playing the princess can wear those things, and everybody stands around in a circle, and who's ever playing the princess walks around inside the circle, and you sing, "There was a princess long ago, long ago, long ago. There was a princess long ago, a long time ago." And then everybody standing in the circle shows how tall the castle was by holding hands and raising up, building a very high castle, and sing, "She lived up in a castle high, a castle high, castle high. She lived up in a castle high, a long time ago," and show how tall the towers were on the castle. Then it goes to the princess in her crib on her naming day, and I made a little bed for the princess to sleep in, and I have a little pillow for her, and the princess could sleep there or be in her crib there, and lo and behold, it's the party time, and I took my vampire cape from Halloween time, and I folded in the collar so the red doesn't show, and tied it around, and you have your wicked fairy. And I took out my wizard's hat, and you could wear that. And if you're playing the fairy, the wicked fairy, and you're casting a spell, you could also carry your broom. You could fly in on your broom. And every time you say the word cast a spell, that means to throw a spell at the baby. So you would make your magic hands and cast a spell like that. And sometimes I like to use this musical instrument called the ratchet to cast the spell. So somebody, if you had a ratchet at home, or when we played here at the library, we cast a spell like that and give it a sound effect. So who's ever playing the Wicked Witch will sing, "Oh, wicked fairy, cast a spell, cast a spell, cast a spell, wicked fairy, cast a spell, a long time ago." And then who's ever playing the princess would fall asleep, and everybody says, "The princess slept for 100 years, 100 years, 100 years. The princess slept for 100 years, a long time ago." And then it's time to tell about how the hedges all grew thick and tall around the castle. So the kids who are standing in a circle, your friends, will hold hands and show how you couldn't get at the castle. The hedges all grew thick and tall, thick and tall, thick and tall. The hedges all grew thick and tall, a long time ago. then it's time for the handsome prince to come riding in. So at the library, I'm lucky. I usually use this stick horse that kids used to play with in the old days. And to ride the stick horse, you put it between your legs and you gallop around with one foot in the front. But this year, I'm lucky enough to borrow from night training workshop that Miss Yahira taught last week, these cute horses made out of pool noodles. Isn't it great? So Miss Yahira let me use this horse today for the handsome prince. And I also have, you could take like a towel or a piece of cloth and you could tie it around your neck to be the handsome prince's cape, like that. And the prince needs something to break through the thorny hedge with. So you could use a ruler, or sometimes I use one of my rhythm sticks from music class. And so you ride around the outside of the circle like you're riding around the outside of the castle. A handsome prince came riding by, riding by, riding by. A handsome prince came riding by a long time ago. And he steps off his horse, and he ties up his horse, and he takes out his sword. And he's got to break through the hedge, and the children who are standing in the circle holding hands are being the hedges. So the prince does that with his sword as you walk around the circle and you break the hands of the people who are standing in the circle. He broke right through that thorny hedge, the thorny hedge, the thorny hedge. He broke right through that thorny hedge a long time ago. And then he can tiptoe around the castle. He's looking for the princess. He climbs up to the top of the tower, and there's the princess lying on her bed. He called to her, but she doesn't wake up, so he's got to shake her to wake her up. So the prince could kneel down and tap the princess on her shoulder 4 times, okay? Whenever you sing the word touch. The princess wakened at his touch, at his touch, at his touch. The princess wakened at his touch long time ago. And then the princess could open her eyes and yawn and stretch, and he could help her stand up. And then they go downstairs to the throne room where everyone is awake, and everybody hold hands, and then the dancing starts because everybody's so happy that the spell is broken. And everybody danced around, danced around, danced around, and everybody danced around a long time ago. And then it's time for bows, and they all lived happily ever after. Thanks for watching.